Hey, my name is Mo Rahim, and this is Mary Jane Markets. This is a podcast reviewing and analyzing the news of the North American cannabis space and a few of its operators: Curaleaf, Cresco Labs, Green Thumb Industries, and Trulieve. I'm sorry for the lack of episodes in the last week. My social calendar has been very full with family wedding events, so I haven't been able to sit down and make these videos. So today I just wanted to recap the past week, and hopefully tomorrow we'll get back to our regularly scheduled programming of Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Today is Sunday, August 8th, and we'll be talking about a license lottery and July sales figures in Illinois, another lawsuit affecting Trulieve, as well as Trulieve revealing a new branding strategy, and some other news about Cresco and GTI's expansion. But first, let's take a quick look at last week's price movements. There was some action last week, at least more than what we were seeing in that July lull. I expect with earnings coming out this week, this was people positioning themselves for those market-moving events. A little later in the episode, we'll take a look at who's releasing earnings this upcoming week, as well as some other events I want to put on your radar. To start off the recap, on Thursday, August 5th, Illinois announced the results of the second of its three ongoing lotteries under House Bill 1443, which was announced last month to expand its state cannabis licenses. This lottery was specifically to award 55 licenses under its social equity program, for which there was strong interest with 589 applicants. With this being the social equity lottery, we shouldn't expect to see any of the big MSOs I discuss on this channel, but there are some small players on this list that you might be interested in, so I'll link this release below. And like I mentioned, after the last lottery, where our MSOs also didn't win any new licenses, this isn't a total loss. I've seen Cresco Labs and GTI brand successfully get their products on the shelves of third-party dispensaries in the state. So that brings in some wholesale business for them. And the third and final lottery for the remaining 75 licenses allocated for in this bill will be held on August 19th. That lottery is not part of the social equity program, but another lottery comprised of top scoring applicants. So that's another opportunity for our MSOs to win some licenses in the state. Staying with Illinois, on August 3rd, the state released the July adult use monthly figures. So these are just the recreational figures. This doesn't include medicinal, which is yet to be announced. And this was another record-breaking month, as you can see here, with adult use sales nearing 128 million. Saw some of this being attributed to the summer festivals held in the city this year, the big one being Lollapalooza. After they were canceled last year for obvious reasons, we see a big jump in both the in-state and out-of-state figure, but the distribution between them is about the same, with the out-of-state figure comprising 33% of the total sales in the state for this month. And that's only up slightly against an average of around 31%. So that's all to say, don't freak out if you see any sensationalized articles next month about demand dropping off. I think ups and downs and seasonality in sales, especially in the summer months, are going to be common. The overall trend, as you can see here, just comparing year over year sales to last year, is that the legal market is growing. And the far more interesting statistic is that sales in Illinois in the last 7 months, if you were to add these totals up, would come out to $725 million, which already surpasses sales in all of 2020. So talk about growth. I'm excited to see what happens in the next 5 months, but I won't be sweating if we start seeing sales growth slow down. I'm investing with a long-term view, and I think you should too. All right, so switching over from general market news to news around specific companies, our next topic is Jushi Holdings receiving an interim arbitration award here of $14.4 million. Now, this is not a company we'll be talking about much on this show, but it does impact Trulieve. The background here is that Jushi had a contract to buy a company called San Velasco, an operator in the state of Florida. And then San Velasco went and sold itself to Harvest Health, an Arizona operator that was expanding into Florida. So this was done in bad faith after that first agreement had been reached, and San Velasco, now a subsidiary of Harvest, is being ordered to pay this arbitration amount, and I think this is all totally fair. Why are we talking about this? Well, Trulieve, as you may have heard, bought Harvest Health earlier this year for $2.1 billion, so any impact to the profits of Harvest also impact Trulieve investors. That being said, this doesn't concern me. Most likely Harvest knew about this agreement and they decided to go ahead with the deal anyway, figuring that the fallout would be less than the upside of expanding into Florida. Staying with Trulieve for our next topic, on Thursday the company announced a new brand portfolio. I think this was an expected smart move. If you've seen any of the Trulieve packaging in Florida, it's just a solid white container with a very basic label, and that's to comply with the medicinal laws in the state. And as Trulieve expands into the other recreational markets of other states, they wanted to make their products as appealing as some of the really nice packaging of their competitors. So they've announced 4 new brands here. This is Muse for their dabbables, extracts, concentrates. So you can see here packaging for vape pen carts. I like this a lot, really nice, attractive coloring, and they're well labeled and differentiated. This is as good as anything I've seen in Illinois. This one is called Momenta and seems to be more wellness and pain relief focused. The product line includes capsules, tinctures, topicals, muscle rubs, and gels. So very different, almost like a vitamin box. I guess it's very clean, very different from the seductive, appealing packaging of Muse, but this is, I think, geared toward a different demographic. This one is called Sweet Talk and is comprised of edibles, chocolate bars, gummies, and this is really nice. I like this a lot. It really looks like a premium candy brand and really different from what I've seen with like Mindy's edibles that's owned by Cresco. So super strong branding here. This one's probably my favorite out of all 4. And this one is called Cultivar Collection by Trulieve. And this is their flower. The release says this will be available in 3.5 grams of whole flour and 1 gram pre-rolls. This one kind of seems pretty basic to me, but the label does say premium quality whole flour, and I guess this is in line with what I've seen with other premium branding. And then I'm assuming the actual container here will be a clear see-through plastic. So pretty cool to see this announced, and I'll link this press release below if you're interested in taking a look and want to zoom into some of these pictures. Next up is news of a planned Cresco Labs facility in New York. This is reported to be a cannabis cultivation, processing, packaging, and distribution facility. Though Cresco's own IR site hasn't announced this, but this Daily Freeman article here, along with some other articles I saw, say this facility is expected to be around 360,000 square feet and expecting to employ between 300 and 400 people. So this is good news for Cresco investors, as it shows the company's serious intentions to expand into the New York market. I expect we'll be following the progress of this closely with, But we've talked about the stall in New York that's left their Cannabis Commission Board unstaffed, and with the New York legislature on recess until next year, I'm not sure if construction will hit any delays here because of that. Cresco Labs is one of the 10 operators that is already in New York, but it's just really tough to say whether they have the green light to go ahead with this under those licenses. Even if they did, would they have to stop and wait for approvals from that board? It's just kind of all up in the air right now. But at least we have an idea of what Cresco is planning. We take a look at the map. This is Route 209 in Ulster County, which is said to be where the lot is. I zoom out here, you can see Ulster County is quite a bit away outside of New York. But if you zoom out even further, you can see this could be a pretty great distribution hub for the Northeast. So not only can they supply their New York City dispensaries, but also if interstate commerce comes into play, you have all of the Northeast here. And of course, you have the added benefit of cheaper real estate far outside of that New York City metropolis. Next up is an 8K filed by Green Thumb Industries earlier this month on August 1st, reporting that they issued, sorry if this is hard to read, but I'll read out the important bit here. The company issued 2,387,807 of the company's subordinate voting shares to the sellers of equity interests of companies that are engaged in the cultivation, production, and or sale of cannabis and related products in the United States. If we take the price of GTI shares at $29.34, the trading day before this announcement, that comes out to roughly $70 million. In the last episode, I talked about GTI's acquisition of a vertically integrated business in Rhode Island for an undisclosed amount, and how they also hadn't disclosed the method of payment. And I also had discussed that we estimated Rhode Island's market was roughly $60 million a year, and that there were only 3 dispensaries in that state. So we could pretty safely assume that this dispensary's revenues were around $20 million a year. And in the past, I'd seen acquisitions for 3 to 5x revenues, and we estimated that the sale had been for around $60 to $100 million. So this falls right in that range. So in context of that language in the 8K, which I just read, I think it's pretty safe to say that these two events are related. So those are all the big ticket items I thought were worth covering since the last episode. So tomorrow, Monday, August 9th, Trulieve will be releasing earnings after hours. After market close, that is. And then on Tuesday, there is a fireside chat with Trulieve Chairman Boris Jordan, and that's hosted by Canaccord Genuity. If you're interested in that, I'll drop the link below. You do have to sign up, but it will be webcast at 9 a.m. Eastern time, I believe, and then the recording will be available at that same link. And then on Wednesday, Green Thumb Industries reports earnings after market close. On Thursday, Trulieve reports earnings before market open. Also on that day, Ohio's Medical Marijuana Advisory Committee meeting will be held, and then they usually release materials after that with updated patient counts so we can sort of estimate the sales for July. And then finally on Friday, Cresco Labs will release their Q2 earnings before market open. So it's going to be a really busy week. I'll be talking all about those earnings releases as they come out and summarizing that information as well as whatever's discussed in the earnings calls. So if you're interested in getting all of that summarized in a digestible format, consider subscribing to the channel or sharing out to other investors that you think might be interested in this type of content. Word of mouth is really the only way I have of growing the channel. So please do that for me. The best way to contact me is through Twitter at MJMarkets. I also have a Patreon, which is patreon.com/MaryJaneMarkets. But all I ask at this time is that you like the video and share it out to places where you think people will find this type of content interesting. And that's really it for today. Thanks for listening.